Today, we're looking at a pink ink by Herbin Rouille D'ancre. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so that if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, check out the entire video. Also, if you're interested, you can follow me over on Instagram. And if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. I do a new ink review daily. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I did the writing samples, then put the ink into my Levenger True Writer with a broad nib, used it to write for a day and to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I do test other papers, but those will show up later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my so it came in a vial like this. Yeah. Forgetting my own lines after what? This is 683, and I'm forgetting that. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium. Oh my god, 683. And I am forgetting what pens I'm using. The Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Oh, I have to hit 10,000 to be able to do it well. Oh my goodness. Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading throughout this writing. Doesn't look like a stub though. I don't think it is a stub. That's not a stub. I don't know what it is, but that's not a stub. The extra fine has, I'm going to assume that's the extra fine there. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen, great shading all the way through, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, great shading all the way, 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any. Now you're going to see that there's no Tomoe River here because something happened and I lost it. I lost it. I don't know what happened, but I lost it. So we're just going to act like I just finished that up, and now we have Rhodia with no bleeding, no ghosting. That Tomoe River example was amazing, by the way. Just tell everybody else that it got edited out. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some shading, not tons, but it does offer up a few spots of darker letters with 3 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine or the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading throughout. It really does put out quite a bit. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show good color variation, and we do get it in the writing, especially on Tomoe River. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot when we do multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very nice pink at the bottom that's pushing its way up very normally. But then we get this kind of golden yellow that occurs before this very light turquoise on the top. This is why we get so much nice shading out of this ink. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And I have no idea what that sort of a line something is on the bottom. It's definitely there. But other than that, these two look exactly the same. It means I'm not expecting any real resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it did much better than I expected, but I still wouldn't use it in a note-taking situation if I wanted to highlight because of how washed out and blown out the I and the G become in the middle. Now that makes sense when you go look at what happens with water, where it in 30 seconds is completely reactivating and lifting it up off the paper. It's also all that it took to get it out of my pen. Pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more, because you can't do more than all. The 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, just like water. I test viscosity or flow with a tilt test that I'll link the video on how I do that. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Herbin Rouille D'ancre has a viscosity of 2.01, making it a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now for the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Herbin Rouille D'ancre has an average dry time of 7 seconds, making it a fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Herbin Rouille D'ancre, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I always like putting a very dark black with pink. It's a very wrestling Bret Hitman Hart kind of thing. So I went with Private Reserve's Velvet Black. The second writing sample is done on Nimacine, Fabriano, and Northbooks paper. Here we see the Nimacine paper. I understand I write on it upside down. It's okay. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. It's upside down. It's not really when you just cut it up into little bits. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, great shading. This is an amazing shading ink if you haven't noticed. And nothing can hold up to the shading that we saw on that Tomoe River. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, great shading, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, still great shading, 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows good color variation because it's amazing in this. And Fabriano, because it has a tendency to tone down every ink. And can it tame the shading? Let's find out. With no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It still has very good shading, even on the Fabriano paper. Extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice shading throughout this writing. Not as much as we've had, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still holds that shading better than it did with the extra fine, 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows good color variation, and we got it in both. And Northbooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading spots. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It only offers a few spots of some shading where you'll wind up crossing letters the most frequently, 1 second to dry. It has shading with only 1 second of dry time. Amazing. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some light spots of some shading that are occurring and 1 second to dry. The scrubby for both shows color variation because we got it in both. And that's all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Herbin Rouille D'ancre? This is a really weird pink to me because it's very light on the page and yet is very easily read the entire time. It shades very nicely and was surprisingly pleasant to read even though it was very light. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Well, I found it performed very well with every pen I put it into. I did find that I preferred the tone and look of this ink much more from very wet pens, whether they were broads or fines. I enjoyed this ink quite a bit more than I expected. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.